In July 1966, Richard Speck committed one of the most horrific mass murders in American history, brutally killing 8 student nurses in Chicago. This shocking crime left the nation reeling and sparked an intense manhunt and a landmark trial. Join us as we delve into the life of Richard Speck, the gruesome details of that fateful night, and the lasting impact of his heinous acts. Stay tuned for a gripping true crime documentary that uncovers the dark secrets behind this chilling case.
After his father's death, Richard's life took a darker turn. His mother, Mary Margaret Speck, remarried Carl Lindbergh, a man with a criminal record and a heavy drinker. The family moved to Dallas, Texas, where Richard struggled to adjust. Carl's abusive nature and the instability at home created a volatile environment for Richard. Richard Benjamin Speck was born on December 6, 1941, in Kirkwood, Illinois, the 7th of 8 children. His early childhood was marked by stability and affection, particularly from his father, Benjamin Speck, a hard-working and loving man. Tragically, Benjamin died of a heart attack when Richard was just 6 years old, an event that would mark the beginning of Richard's troubled path. Richard's teenage years were characterized by petty crimes, truancy, and alcohol abuse. By the age of 15, he had dropped out of school and began accumulating arrests for misdemeanors and minor offenses. His criminal behavior escalated, and by his early 20s, Richard had been arrested 41 times. His criminal record included burglary, theft, and assault. In 1963, Richard married Shirley Malone, and the couple had a daughter. However, his violent and erratic behavior strained the marriage, leading to a separation in 1966. Around this time, Richard's crimes became more severe, and he began exhibiting signs of deep psychological disturbances. His marriage had collapsed, and his criminal activities intensified, setting the stage for the horrific events to come. In the spring of 1966, Richard traveled to Chicago, where his criminal activities continued. He secured a job as a seaman on various ships, giving him a transient lifestyle that facilitated his criminal behavior. His growing frustration and anger, compounded by heavy drinking, led to increasingly violent outbursts. His seedy lifestyle and criminal tendencies made him a dangerous man on the brink of a horrifying crime spree. Richard's violent tendencies were not only directed at strangers, but also towards those close to him. His erratic behavior and inability to maintain stable relationships alienated him from family and friends. The culmination of his chaotic life and violent impulses would soon erupt in one of the most shocking mass murders in American history. On the night of July 13, 1966, Richard Speck entered a townhouse at 2319 East 100th Street in Chicago, housing 8 young student nurses. He gained entry by posing as a maintenance man, armed with a knife. Once inside, Speck methodically subdued the women, binding their hands and feet with strips of bedsheets. The nurses, who had been chatting and relaxing after a long day, were taken completely by surprise. Over the course of the night, Speck brutally tortured and murdered the women one by one. His methodical and cold-blooded approach was both calculating and frenzied, as he sexually assaulted, stabbed, and strangled his victims. The sheer brutality of the crime shocked the nation and left an indelible mark on the collective psyche of America. Miraculously, one of the nurses, Corazon Amorao, survived by hiding under a bed and later escaping to seek help. Her eyewitness account provided crucial details about Speck's appearance and actions, which played a pivotal role in identifying and capturing him. Her survival amid such horror was a beacon of hope in an otherwise dark and tragic night. Speck's motivation for the murders was a combination of deep-seated anger, resentment, and a desire to exert control and power over his victims. His psychological state was deteriorating, driven by a lifetime of abuse, rejection, and criminal behavior. The murders were an outlet for his pent-up rage and a twisted attempt to assert dominance over his perceived oppressors. The Chicago police launched an extensive manhunt for Speck, scouring the city for any clues. The media coverage was intense, and the public was gripped by fear and revulsion. Speck's image was plastered on newspapers and television screens, creating a palpable tension in the community as authorities worked tirelessly to apprehend him. The murders not only highlighted the vulnerabilities of the young women, but also exposed the failures in the system that allowed a man like Speck to roam free. The public outcry was enormous, calling for better protection for citizens and more stringent measures to prevent such atrocities. The case became a rallying point for advocates of criminal justice, reform, and victim rights. The brutality and senselessness of the murders left an enduring scar on the community. Families of the victims were devastated, their lives shattered by the loss of their loved ones. The tragedy united the city in grief and determination to see justice served, as the authorities closed in on the man responsible for such heinous acts. Richard Speck was captured on July 19, 1966, after a botched suicide attempt led him to a hospital where a doctor recognized the tattoo born to raise hell from the police description. Speck was arrested and charged with the murders of the 8 student nurses. The trial that followed was one of the most highly publicized in American history. During the trial, Speck showed little remorse for his actions. His defense team attempted to plead insanity, but the overwhelming evidence and eyewitness testimony from Corazon Amorel led to a swift conviction. On April 15, 1967, Speck was found guilty and sentenced to death, a sentence later commuted to life imprisonment when the death penalty was temporarily abolished in Illinois. Speck's confessions, recorded secretly in prison, revealed the chilling details of his crimes. In these tapes, he boasted about the murders and expressed no regret, further cementing his image as a remorseless killer. These confessions were a stark reminder of the evil that drove him and provided a grim closure to the case. The aftermath of the murders had a profound impact on American society. The case led to increased security measures in dormitories and residential facilities across the country. It also spurred changes in the criminal justice system, emphasizing the need for better monitoring of violent offenders and more robust mental health interventions. The horror of Speck's crimes inspired numerous books, documentaries, and films, each exploring different facets of the case. Works such as The Crime of the Century by Dennis L. Brio and William J. Martin, and the TV movie Speck delve into the psychological and social implications of his actions. These cultural depictions serve to keep the memory of the victims alive and highlight the enduring quest for justice. Speck's life in prison was marked by infamy and notoriety. He was involved in numerous altercations and was a subject of media interest until his death from a heart attack on December 5, 1991. Even in death, the shadow of his crimes loomed large, a chilling reminder of the capacity for human cruelty. The legacy of the Speck murders continues to resonate, serving as a stark warning of the potential for violence lurking within individuals. The case underscores the importance of vigilance, compassion, and the relentless pursuit of justice to prevent such tragedies from recurring. The memory of the 8 young nurses and their untimely deaths remains etched in the annals of true crime history, a somber chapter that continues to provoke reflection and reform.